Welcome to this week's edition of Question Cave. Today we're excited to have members from different parts of our teams join us to discuss how we prepare for Champs. As the biggest competition of the season, Champs requires a coordinated effort from all parts of the team to ensure that we're putting our best foot forward.
During the stream.
No, Ryder, you want to say who you are?
Oh, not bad. My name is Ryder. I'm the electromechanical lead of Team 930.
I'm Ed Pilon. I'm the programming lead of Team 930.
I'm Amanda Asmar. I'm the strategy lead.
I'm Alexis Wangard, and I'm the business lead for the team.
During the stream, we'll be diving into how our programming, mechanical, strategy, and business teams can work together to prepare for Champs. As always, we'll be answering questions from the chat. If you have any specific programming, mechanical, business, or strategy questions or concerns related to Champs, be sure to drop them in the chat and we'll do our best to address them. Whether you're in programming, mechanical, business, or strategy, this stream is the perfect opportunity to learn more about how we prepare for Champs as a team and connect with other members of the Bytes community. So grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let's dive into a world of Champs preparation. As everyone knows, the rules have just been changed this last week. For anyone who didn't see the changes, if the power grid is fully powered, you could then supercharge the grid by being able to double up on scoring on the grid. Our team knew that to stand out and perform above the rest, we would have to adjust to this change in the game. But first, we have to know what to adjust. Our team made a list of what would make our robot the most ideal for Champs and decide how risky they are, how quickly we could get the task done, and how well it would help us at competition. From there, we eliminated what we think is not worth our time to work on and used what was left as a list of what needs to get done on the robot before Champs. And then Ryder, do you want to tell us about your mechanical preparations?
For sure. So on the electromechanical side, we're always looking at iteration. Not trying to settle for less. We're always trying to make the robot better by giving it more capabilities or making sure things don't break. So one of the biggest things that we changed from our previous competition to Champs was our manipulator. It starts out simple with our manipulator rollers. They're 3D printed rollers that spin underneath the belts. We made those out of a stronger, or we printed those out of a stronger material in order to keep them from breaking, as we had, I think, 2 or 3 break at our previous competition. And then the bigger thing that we changed on the manipulator was the spacing in between the 2 sets of rollers. We wanted to change that because we were focusing on trying to get a more consistent shelf pickup, a potential upright cone intake if we wanted it, and then just overall being able to have our manipulator spin at a faster speed. We went from a 6.6 reduction on our manipulator to a 2.5 to 1 reduction. So now we have more speed. We're able to intake the cones consistently from the shelf and from the floor. And yeah, that was the manipulator. And then for our ground intake that we've been working on all season, we had a few previous designs that we never got to really test thoroughly. Going into our week 2 event, we had a kind of cone flipping intake. Never got enough testing for that. We found out we were faster just picking up cones off the ground with our upper manipulator anyways. So then we went to our week 4 design at our Wisconsin regional. And it was kind of like a low cube grab and score in order for us to rank really high, but we found out that we scored the same amount high and mid that we would trying to just fill the hybrid. So kind of put that one off to the side. And now for our world's design, we came up with an intake that makes it faster for us to go onto the field and pick up cubes off the ground without risking another robot hitting our upper main manipulator. So in doing so, we added aluminum gears as the 3D printed ones that we've been using on the previous designs kept stripping out during testing. And yeah, that's what mechanical did.
Yep. And for programming, we like to start off by checking over all of our angles for the manipulator, elevator, and arm. And doing this makes sure that all of our pickups and scoring is consistent. And if we don't do this, then we might have unexpected changes or unexpected problems at Champs that we don't want to happen, like, for instance, breaking. We also like to review data from previous competitions. We get data from logging on our robot. And we use that and we compile that to see what the problem is and where it could be happening and what we can learn from it. We used that a lot with our cameras this last year and our position on the field based off of where the camera is. We also have to add new code for all the mechanical changes and just a little bit of tuning. Right now we're working on the little mechanical changes like Ryder said for getting that intake done. We're also working on tuning auto paths and making new ones for to be ready for champs for all the new changes that are going on. Programming also has to go through a lot of packing. We like to pack spare parts for our cameras. For the cameras, we have ribbons and USB cables that we need for that. We also have micro SD cards that we need for those cameras. We need to make sure those are packed, along with packing our controllers so we can do any debugging in the pit and testing with those controllers. We also have a lot of cords to bring. We have to bring a tether to connect to the robot for downloading logs and uploading code. We also do that with the Ethernet we bring. We also have various USBs to connect to various parts of our robot, like the motors. We also have some bug fixing materials like April tags and the camera calibration checkerboard that goes with those April tags. And we use those to test if our April tags are working correctly, if they're giving us a pretty accurate distance on the field of where we're at. Yeah. We also want to make sure that all of our programming members are up to date. We want all of the branches to be merged to our competition branch so that we have all of our code in one spot, and that if we make any changes from here on out, it'll be on that branch, so it's not we're trying to figure out whose branch had what changes. And we want to make sure all of our programming members pull down those changes in all of the code so that everyone's on the same pace. Along with keeping everyone on the same pace, we want to make sure that everyone's libraries are updated along with WPILib so that we're not worrying about stressing and about downloading these at the competition at the hotel the night of. We want to make sure this is done well ahead of time. And then we want to make sure Phoenix Tuner and Rev hardware client and stuff like that is downloaded ahead of time so we're not stressing to find who has it on their system or who has the right version. And then Alexis, do you want to talk about how you guys prepare for business?
You got it. So obviously funding for any robotics team is crucial for any procedures that you have going on throughout the season. It directly impacts your team's ability to design, build, and obviously compete with your robot. When we realized that we qualified for Champs Week 2 at the Midwest Regional, we immediately had to start thinking about what we wanted to do for funding and requiring it. So our anticipated budget after going through our budget materials and all of the categories that we have was around $35,000. This included the registration, obviously, for Champs, food, transportation, hotel costs, and any other miscellaneous fees that we might have. So obviously Team 930 has many supportive sponsors and members of the community that works with us to ensure that we are a successful and sustainable team. But to ensure that this is continuous year after year, we have to reach out to these sponsors again to require more funding. So what we did immediately after week 2 and progressing from week 4 to week 6 was reach out to our sponsors through biweekly newsletters. They are extremely impactful on informing our community and informing on sponsors on our progress, any changes that we may have made, and ultimately how we need their help and how we can offer our help to offer demos or anything along the lines of that. Through that, we've created a sponsor letter that we've sent to these businesses, and then from there we see what else will these businesses need to ensure that they are successful. Not including our championship trip, Team 930 functions on a budget of nearly $125,000. This obviously ranges from materials for our robot, any equipment and travel, and then our outreach. A key way that Team 930 is able to attend 3 regionals throughout the season and then obviously continue to be sustainable is communicate with these sponsors like I've mentioned before. 90% of Team 930 sponsors have been retained over 3 years, and it's very crucial to who we are today. To ensure that this happens, we have a sponsor day in the preseason. This ensures that we are including younger members of the team and also having other sub-teams involved in our process. So 5 emails are brought in by each member of the team, and the business team coordinates this and ensures that everything is sent out, communicating with more local businesses around us. From this event, we've had 9 more sponsors uh, be introduced to Team 930 and ultimately offer us funding this year. Then after this event, we have the business team reach out to our returning sponsors and any other contacts that we may receive, and this is mainly where we get majority of our sponsors. We have had 35 sponsors for Team 930 this year, and it's about $52,000, and it is very graciously accepted for all the support that we have received. And now, obviously, with Champs, we update our sponsor tracker from any more donations that we have received and any more donations from our donation page that has been sent out throughout the community. Then a key part of engaging with our community as well is doing fundraising. We last week or 2 days ago, we recently had a fundraiser at our Qdoba recently in our community, and we want to do more fundraiser at our after champs at our local businesses to ensure that we are getting more of this outreach and still receiving these donations. And then obviously to ensure there is financials ready, but you also have a team image to work with on your team. So we make Champs t-shirts and everything that we need to have ready to promote our team at Champs and at Worlds. But obviously we want to also promote our outreach. So we obviously want to promote Bytes and ensure that more teams are able to join this amazing program. But we also want to promote our off-season event, MROC. So MROC, we finalized the date that it is July 28th to the 29th, which is a Friday and a Saturday. On Friday, July 28th, will be the workshops and the team socials, and then a little bit of competitions, qualification matches. Then on the 29th will be the rest of the qualification matches along with the playoffs. In the next few days or in the next coming weeks will be the team sign up list that any team that would be interested can go and sign up to attend our events. We obviously want to promote any team that may be interested to come and attend this awesome event, and we hope to see you there.
Cool. So on the strategy side of things, we've been doing a lot to get ready for champs. Since our most recent regional in Pittsburgh, one of the main things that we've been working on is our scouting app. If you didn't know, Team 930 has our own scouting app, and it's linked on our GitHub if you're interested to see how it works. We've been getting lots of feedback from our scouters over the past 3 regionals, and in this week we've been talking to each one of them to see their opinions on how to improve our app and to make scouting a better and easier experience for them. Most of the feedback was removing some of our data points that we are tracking. For example, we had a data point that tracking if the robot was able to be defended. Since we've seen that most alliances were using the strategy of 3 offense and 0 defense, we didn't feel like we needed to track that data point anymore. We still do track defense though. It's more tracked on an effectiveness scale that we found was easier to track, and we used it more in our data. We made all of these changes through our JSON file, which we've been using throughout this build season and throughout this year. It's super simple to use. After you edit the JSON file, you just connect the tablets through a cord, and then you download it to each of the tablets. We found this a super simple and easy way and to make changes throughout all of the build season. Going along with more of the scouting, which we make a huge priority, we see that scouting is definitely going to be a huge determining factor once we get to Worlds this year. This week, we made another scouter training presentation to update the scouters on our new app changes, as well as give them a few refreshers on the more confusing parts of scouting. We made this presentation on the feedback that we got from our scouters to see where they felt that they were most struggling, and then compare it to the data that we are collecting and see that we felt that they were struggling the most. The presentation had refreshers on scouting expectations, our phone policy, our new data point that we are tracking, as well as some examples for them to follow when they were filling out their last data point, which was the comments field. The comments we have in there as just observations they see during the match, and they weren't really sure what to put to make it the most useful for us. So when we were presenting this presentation, we made sure to spend extra time on this field to make sure our scouters were super confident when they were scouting. On another note, if you are a team that is attending the championships this year and you're in the Millstein division, please reach out to Team 930 on any of our social media. If you're interested in scouting with us, this would mean that you would send over a few of your scouters to us to use our app and to use our tablets, and then in return we would send over all of the data that we collect through our Google Sheets file. If you're interested, but you're on a different field than us, we would love to do a data swap with you guys. So that would mean we would send over all of our scouting data in return for your scouting data, because being at Champs is a huge deal for our team, and we want everyone to be able to experience everything at Champs. So if you're interested, please reach out to us, and we will reach out to you and get that set up. The last main thing that we were working on this past week was pre-scouting. So as many of you may know, the divisions were just released a few days ago. And since then, we've been working on pre-scouting all of the teams in our division. We like to pre-scout through a Google Sheets database. We have checkboxes of various fields, like what levels a team score on, what autos they have, and what substations they pick up from. We also have exports from a Chief Delphi post of all of the Statbotics data for all of these teams that we also have in there just to get a good idea of where everyone is at on our field. We've also been looking at the public pre-scouting page on the same Chief Delphi post, where each team can go on and fill out all the information for their own robot, so like their drivetrain types, and then various fields for how they perform during the match. We also were having some minor projects during this week, including having lots of discussions of this new rule change that we talked about earlier. Although we can't give away exactly what we're thinking for the strategy, we have been having a lot of discussions to maximize our strategy for this new section of the 2023 game.
And if anyone has any questions, please leave them in the stream chat. We would love to answer them. And it looks like we already have one for mechanical.
Alright, so the question is, what specific electromechanical subsystems or mechanisms does your team plan to focus on for the championships, and how are you preparing to optimize their performance, reliability, and durability? So like I mentioned earlier, we have the manipulator that we updated, and then the ground intake that we updated. The manipulator, specifically to ensure that its performance and reliability are the same, we've been doing a lot of testing and a lot of updating towards our positions to make sure that we're not just making a change and pushing it onto the field untested. So we've done a lot of testing with that. It seems like we're in a good spot with it at this point, and we haven't had any issues with it. For our ground intake, we've been doing constant testing, making sure that we're stress testing this to the point where if it's going to break here and not at the competition. Because obviously breaking here gives us a little bit more time to think things through, redesign, and then reattack it by building it back up and strengthening its durability.
Okay. And then, Amanda, do you want to answer the next question about strategy?
Mm-hmm. So, how did your team come up with the strategy for this competition? So, this year we were lucky enough to have a week 2 competition this year. So, we were able to watch all of the week 0 and all the week 1 events and kind of build our strategy off of what other people were doing and how we knew our robot was going to perform. So, a lot of this stuff with our mechanical design, as Ryder was talking about before, based on how we thought of kickoff of how we wanted our robot to perform. So we knew that we wanted to have to be able to score on all the different levels, on all the different fields, and we knew we wanted to have a good shoot kind of intake. So with the week 1 events, we were definitely looking at those and kind of building our strategy off of theirs and to make it the best that we could have been.
And the next question, do you guys use vision at all for scoring or picking up at double substation? Currently we do not, but one of our first plans was to use vision for that. But this year vision was very tough on us, it was very tough on a lot of other teams, so we just kind of scrapped that for during the season and then set it as an off-season project to get stuff like that running. So the next question is, how does your team approach the promotion of first values and the first mission to inspire and motivate other teams in your community? Alexis, do you think you can answer that?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, like what the question is asking, we want to ensure on Team 930 that everyone is gaining the first abilities to learn and discover what they want to do. It doesn't matter if you're on business, and it doesn't matter if you're on electromechanical. You can learn new things by being involved in first. So we obviously teach all of our team members many of the industry standard tools that they need to learn about whatever their future career may be. And then we want to have these students learning soft skills, whatever that may be, is that critical thinking, problem solving, communicating with so many other people and other teams to see what other perspectives that you can see by communication, and obviously moving forward in your future career.
Thank you. Can you describe any initiatives or activities your team has undertaken to build relationships with teams in your community, such as joint workshops, collaborative projects, or shared resources? So that kind of relates to MROC.
Yeah, I can do that one. Obviously, like I mentioned before, at MROC there will be workshops. So last year at MROC there were 12 workshops that range from business tools to pneumatics. Anyone that wanted to learn about something in FIRST can come and learn about these topics. There's something very similar that we mock at the FIRST Championship, where teams can go to these workshops or these presentations to learn more about a certain topic or presentation. And we want to do something like that here at MROC. We only have more topics coming up that we want to focus on, and obviously these have been super successful. These help teams learn more about a specific project they want to work on or something that they've never thought of before. For our business tools presentation, some teams did not have any way to track their funding. So the business team was able to work with them and show them this is how we track our funding and how we have this process, and now how can we help you do this in the future.
Sure. And it looks like the next question is, what steps can we take to ensure that our robot is in the best possible condition for the FRC championships? We are always constantly looking over our robot, both in shop and in competition. We have a pre and post match checklist that we go through every single match to make sure that our robot doesn't have anything wrong with it. This ranges from things to simple things like tightening bolts and just making sure everything's tight to more like stress testing type stuff, making sure things feel right with the elevator, pulling it all the way up, pushing it all the way down, um, and kind of just feeling around the robot. And I think that keeps our robot in a good shape because we're always constantly looking for things that are wrong. So the point, or to the point where if something was wrong, we notice it almost right away.
Yeah, and then we do similar checklists like that for programming, making sure that we know what autonomous is selected, along with making sure we don't make super big adjustments that might break our robot in the middle of a competition. And next question is, how do you manage your time and resources in order to prepare for competitions? So we start off by kind of, along with like what I said earlier, was we made a list of things that need to get done, and we kind of had roughly how long it would take or the amount of time it would take comparatively to everything else. And we decided off of that kind of the order of what needs to get done and our priorities. And so we have a lot of working in parallel. Like programming can work on stuff in the code while mechanical fixes something on the robot. Or if people are testing stuff like our code on the robot, we can have another group working on more parts of the code. And it's not just one thing is going on at a time, multiple things are going on all at the same time to add up to one thing that is our robot and having that function at champs.
And definitely, we even use a business standard tool that we call Trello. And at the beginning of every single meeting that we do, we have kind of a like a group team meeting before to go over each of the sub teams, what their job is that meeting, what they plan to get done, and kind of and at the end of the meeting, we kind of go back to what their list was get done, and move it over to our different categories. If they still need to continue to work on it, if they are completely done with it. So we kind of use it to track our progress throughout the whole build season.
All right, next question is, can you explain how your team used data analysis and visualization to inform your design and strategy decisions? So on the design side, we do a lot of prototyping. At the beginning of the year and then all kind of throughout the year while mechanisms are working, we do a lot of prototyping just to see how things feel. So I know with our manipulators, we are always constantly making a design and then running it with just drills just to see how the game piece interacted. And we kind of take that to all levels of our design.
Definitely. And then more on the strategy side of it, now in the build season, in the competition season, we can look back at our data to see how we performed with all the different types or levels of the competition. So maybe we wanted to improve like our ground intake, so we're scoring more on the bottom nodes. We can look at our data that the strategy team collected and see where we were struggling, and then we can make our design decisions based on what we need to work on.
We have another question. Can you explain the programming language and tools that you use to program your robot and why you chose them? So to start off, we use Java as our programming language on the robot. But we have many different tools that we use to help program a robot. One of them is Path Planner, and that is an easy way to visualize our paths and and it helps us make them on the fly. It's really fast and efficient, and almost anyone can use it. I remember teaching kids last year how to use it, and they were able to pick it up very quickly. And the whole thing, all it does is just make a path file that you can put in your code, and you'll have to do some tweaking in your code to use it, but once you get a whole system figured out, it's very easy to make paths. We also use a thing called Advantage Scope, which is basically a more advanced version of simulation. And that helps us visualize what happened in matches using log files, and we can simulate specific parts of the robot. We had to create some mechanism simulators for our arm, elevator, and manipulator. And that helps us see what the position is supposed to be on the robot and compare it to what's actually going on in the robot and seeing if there's errors going on or if there's a problem that we don't see. And then we use things like Rev hardware to program our motors and a lot of the basic stuff that First gives out.
So then the next question is, what business tools do you use and why do you use them? So the first one I definitely can think of is QuickBooks. QuickBooks is a system that we use to track our receipts and expenses, and it allows us obviously to stay organized. It is one of the most important industry standard tools that we use here. We use it because in previous years at least, it was much more difficult to track where our income was coming in, what was being purchased, and many copied purchases of, well, we purchased these manipulator parts and now we purchase them again even though we didn't need to. So this tracks what we are doing with our purchases, what time, and just managing trends that may happen throughout a competition season. Then our next one would be Expensify, and this is mainly the process that we use to ensure that our mentors or any other members of the team are getting reimbursement for what they purchased during a build season. And then one of the other business tools that we use is Adobe, and this is mainly for our marketing materials that we make throughout our season.
What outreach events do you do? So we do a lot of different outreach events. Right now, the Question Cave is one of our many outreach events that we like to do on Bear Bytes. We also do things like MROC. If you guys want to explain more about other outreach events that we do.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So one main part of our team is our Society of Women Engineers, which we call SWE Bears. So a lot during the off season, and especially this last summer, we spent a lot of time devoted to SWE Bears. So over the summer, we hosted a SWE Girl Scout event for junior Girl Scouts to earn 3 robotics badges. And during the event, they earned 3 robotics badges based on the things that they could learn in robotics. And then there was like 3 different troops that we learned or that we taught there. We continued to build and build with SWE.
Yeah, and then we also put a huge emphasis on First Lego League. We have hosted multiple summer camps each year. We do 2 a year, um, and it's just to give kids an introductory to what First is about and what First Lego League is about. So it kind of runs them through an entire season of First Lego League all in 1 week. So we're teaching them a lot of information there, and then from those camps it goes right into our First Lego League kind of system that we run as well. As we've started 6 teams, yes, 6 teams over the past 2 years and mentored 7. So we're just trying to grow that basis in our community.
Okay. Thanks everyone for asking questions. I know we answered a lot of them. I hope we've actually answered a lot of your questions. And thank you for showing up today's Question Cave stream on preparing for champs. We hope that you found today's discussion informative and engaging, and that you gained valuable insights into how we're approaching the competition. We want to extend a special thanks to our guests from the Mechanical, business, and strategy teams for sharing their expertise and experiences with us today. If you have any further questions or comments about today's topic, or have any programming questions, please feel free to reach out on the Bytes server. Thanks for tuning in.